Hello and welcome to the stock cart shopping lab. This is a complicated lab, so it's a lab. I'm going to encourage you to get started on this soon as you have the chance. I'm going to break this into multiple videos, as you can see based on whatever you're looking at right now. In this first data, I'm going to attempt to get us connected up to the API, and we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty nervous, right? This is phase one. I've been going back and forth. How am I going to do this? I think we're just going to try and get the API access in this first video. And hey, if this goes well, then maybe we'll do a little bit of housekeeping. I initially was going to start with taking the project and turning it into the requires and such. So I've given you two files. One is I don't know what it's called. It's called index, and that's our literal index page. This is going to be a full-blown website, and right? I mean, this is a huge scope for a lab. It's also, I think this is going to be the last thing I'm going to ask you to do in the class, other than your final project. So if this ends up taking a couple weeks, I guess that'd be a good use of a late voucher. But anyways, this is going to be a full-blown project, and so I want to start with the requires because I knew we could do that, but I had a horrible time working with the API when I ran through this yesterday, so I'm going to start with the API. So the worst thing about this project, so we're going to be buying things. We're going to be building a stock or a shopping cart, which is cool, but the thing that's going to make it particularly interesting is it's going to be stuffed with stocks. The thing about stocks is stocks have fluctuating prices. So you buy Google at 100, that's not the same thing as buying Google at 101 or 99. So we're going to need to pull data from a real-time feed. And by real-time, I don't mean real-time. I mean delayed, okay? Don't get too excited because you'd have to pay, I don't know, big money to have a real-time feed. As you can imagine, that's valuable, but having something delayed by 15 minutes or so is usually what they give us. Now, the reason this is a particularly difficult assignment, and it's going to be more difficult this year than it's ever been in the past, is that every year I do this, the API I used in the previous year gets taken down. And that was the case this year. Well, actually, the API I used last year still exists, but they nerfed it, so it doesn't have what we would need. So we're going to go to a new API, and this API is going to require you to register. I'm sorry, it's not too hard to register for it. So we're going to have to get a key, and we're going to have to register. Now, I think that's fitting to do at least once, because I've mentioned that you might need to do that in reality, so let's do that. And so don't use my key, please. I'm going to do my best to blur it out because this is going to be something on the internet. But I don't know how. I'm sure I'm not going to obscure my key fully at a few points here. So don't use my key, please, because we could get in trouble. And by trouble, I mean everyone's application can get taken down. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to IEXcloud.io. This is similar to the service I used in the past, but I don't know, now it's cloud-based and it requires a subscription or something. So I did this yesterday. I'm telling you, this is going to be full-blown improvisation mode, and I think that's probably okay. I want to go, I don't know, probably get started. I'm going to get a new key, which is weird because I got a key last time. All right, I'm going individual. I'm going to use a different email address. I'm going to go with my COCC email address. You see, you ever notice in my form fills, it's just a bunch of trash that comes up because I'm always just making up trashy usernames. All right. So I'm going to create an account. That should generate an email. All right. So we got this. Right, you see they're trying to charge you money, but you go down, of course, right? Isn't that how things work? You have to scroll down to see the free thing. I think it's funny, but it's like, it's whatever. All right, so get started for free. Warning, you're only going to get 50,000 messages a month. So don't press refresh like 51,000 times this month. Because, I don't know what would happen. I don't know. They'd maybe make you upgrade or something. But this is a good idea, or a good explanation or illustration of how things work when they're restricting your access. I'm not even trying to be I mean, I'm trying to be efficient. I will edit it if things go horrible, but this is going to be a little bit of an adventure. All right, membership plan successfully completed. All right, so what we want is a key. Now I'm telling you, go check your email right now. I'm gonna go check my email. I'm gonna pause it, and I don't know. I think there might be a key in there. In any case, I'm gonna have to verify this thing. So go do that, and I'm gonna do that. All right, so I received 3 emails. First one was like, "Hey, your email was used to register." The second one was, I don't know, welcome. The third one was verify your account. So I clicked the link and verify your account. Now what's interesting is the first time I did this, I used a different email client and I had to paste. It wasn't a link, I just had to paste the URL. All right, so that'll take you something like this. You probably got this annoying tutorial here, blah, blah, blah. I could next my way through it, or I could X my way out of it. I don't think it matters. So on my screen, I see my account no and my API tokens. All right, so I have done some homework on this. I wouldn't just drag you through something that I didn't understand at all. So I think what we want is sandbox testing. So I didn't really look into it a whole lot about why we want to do sandbox testing, but this seems like a sandbox testing situation. Now I'm telling you, this API token, which is your key or whatever you want to call it, you have a separate key for sandbox testing. I'm assuming what sandbox testing is maybe like the quotes are delayed, so it's not as valuable of a service, and maybe the calls are unlimited. So see right here, sandbox testing. I'm going to turn that on, and there's documentation on this. I'm telling you, you've got 2 kinds of tokens. You got the one that you have now, and you're gonna have a different one for using the sandbox. It starts with a T. So I'm not sure how to make that happen. So I'm going to click on API tokens. Here's what I'm just going around clicking. I'm sorry, folks. Or how about go to API tokens? I don't know. It's probably go to the same place. Do they? They do. And then you're going to see this publishable thing. It's got a T in it. It starts with a T. All right? Very important. Well, I guess it's very important. I mean, it doesn't seem important to me, but it's important that you realize that one of those starts with a T, one of them doesn't. A sandbox key starts with a T, so that's the one you're going to need. And we're also going to be using the sandbox endpoint. So make sure that you heard that, because you can't mix like a regular endpoints with a sandbox key, and you can't mix a regular key with a sandbox endpoint. I think I said that right. If I didn't, well, I don't know what to tell you. All right, so that is the registration. That's the magic key we're going to need. So if I were you, what I would do is I would copy that thing. So that little button says copy. Now what I want to do is I'm going to have a look at those resources I gave you. So I gave you 2 things. I gave you Index, and I gave you IEXcloudio. So the purpose of this video is to get IEXcloudio going. All right. So open that up, and you're going to see this whole deal, right? This is curlstarter, but instead of curlstarter, it's kind of sort of customized to the IEX trading API. Now I do want to tell you, see these things up here? These are just, oh man, I didn't mean to do that. But oh wow, that went extra bad. All right, so see these things up here? This isn't going to work at all. Don't think that's going to work, because it's not going to work. This is an endpoint that I used in the past where it didn't require a key. It's just not going to work for us. So here's what I like to do. So you know that key that I just copied a minute ago? It's super annoying to manage, so I'm gonna paste it here, just because I don't want to lose it. I'm telling you I'm going to use it later, but I'm not going to use it right now. We're going to build up this endpoint. I'm going to visit the documentation for that, and then at some point that key will get concatenated onto this giant string, and then we'll move forward. But for now, I don't want to have to come back and get that thing. We were already on the page where you got that. All right, so don't do anything, because it's not going to work. I want to try, I'm going to go API docs. I don't know exactly how to get to where I'm trying to go here. I could just pull open these tabs where I'm getting to, but that's kind of cheating. I'd like to show you what things I'm clicking on so you can copy and paste and read the documentation accordingly. You see, I'm really taking my time with this video, because this is going to be the worst part of this. because this is all completely governed by IEXcloud, and you need to know how to navigate this. Well, I mean, I do, I guess, but it'd be good if you did. Alright, so the docs, API reference, versioning, oh, I have no idea. Oh, testing sandbox, I'm going to go down here. Now, I don't know that that's where I want to go, but that sounds like where I want to go. Alright. So that looks like a reasonable base. So there's a base, there's an endpoint, and then there's the key part of this. Now, there is some documentation for this somewhere. That, I don't know. So you see how there's some examples down here? So like REST, how to. I'm just looking at these things. This is generally speaking what these endpoints look like, but I'm telling you this endpoint right here, this is not for the sandbox. This is for the live one. So the root, like in this one, would be up to here. And then the endpoint is the stock Apple thing, and then the token, that's the that's going to be that token that you copied and pasted. Now, the difficult thing about this to work with is we're using the sandbox, but none of these endpoints are built for the sandbox. That I need to find the sandbox documentation. There is a thing for just the sandbox, and I'm not sure where that is. So I'm going to go clicking around for a minute. Sorry, folks. But I know there is. I know there was a thing that I found. Logging in. Sorry. You see I'm back to where I started. Learn how to use sandbox testing. I think that's what I want. Alright, so I'm on my welcome console now, which is home, I think. Is that useful? I don't know. Right, normally I don't do this clicking around mess, but I'm doing it today because I want to show you where to go. All right, cool. I think this is what I want. So in here, what they give you is some fully built endpoints, and the easiest way to get our IEX starter going is to use a fully built thing and then kind of stitch it in, right? So here they're walking us through, turn on sandbox testing. There's your key. All right, so here is an example of a sandbox API call. This is going to look up a stock quote for IBM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that. Or copy that, I guess, at this point. And then I head over here. And I'm going to paste that maybe here or something. Alright, so that right there is what a functional endpoint looks like. So I'm going to take this little recipe here and I'm just going to kind of substitute things. So the base URL or the root is this thing up. Well, I guess. I think the reason I struggled with this is I was reading the documentation and they talk about the root being that and the endpoint being like stock. But this stable thing does need to be in there. I feel like the documentation doesn't really reflect that. Maybe that was just my mistake, but I spent like, I don't know, hour and a half trying to get this going because I kept not putting the stable part in it because it's not clear whether that, it's like I don't know where that's supposed to go. But I'm going to put it here. Well, and to be clear, it doesn't have to go there, I don't think, but I was not doing it at all, which is bad. And you see I'm just cutting and pasting. I'm just ripping it apart into these pieces. Alright, so that's my root. Everything up until the question mark, that's going to be the endpoint. And that goes here. And you see, I could have done this in 3 minutes if I just wanted to do magic for you. Like, oh, here's what you write. But I'm trying to show you where it comes from. Because we've been talking about APIs. This is the second week now. So I do want to kind of show you what it looks like to build up a more complex endpoint. And then, so base URL, add endpoint. This is add token. And then, so it's going to be service URL. Oh, I'm not looking forward to attempting to blur out my token in every frame of this video, but that's how it's going to be. All right, and your test token here, that's nonsense. So what you want to do now is, that thing that you copied and pasted on the page, if you were taking my advice, is you can just cut and paste that in right where so token equals, and then put your token there. And you see this little echo service URL thing that I've commented out? I'm going to uncomment that because I want to see this URL on my screen, see what it looks like so I can test it. Because if I'm lucky, and make no mistake, luck is the right word here. If I'm lucky and this works the first time, great, I don't need to echo it out. But in the event that I do a bad job of building this URL, then I will need to mess with that. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to run it. And I'm going to localhost, and let's see how this goes. I'm actually feeling pretty good about this. Okay, that's good. Well, it's bad and it's good. Bad, my token's being blasted right there, but good because I got a response. Now, if you're gonna get, I don't remember what a bad one. Like if you didn't form the endpoint well, have a look at your endpoint. What I would do if I were you is I would look at that and I would compare that with what it's supposed to look like, and you might realize that you're missing like a slash or something, or maybe there's an extra space in there. So URLs and spaces generally aren't going together. So you might have to clean it up. Like I said, that's why I'm making like a 15-20 minute video out of this, because I think if you're a normal person, you might get hung up on that. So I've showed you how to navigate to all the tools you need to create that endpoint. And just to be clear, if you're seeing that, then it means that your request went through, and you can see this is all the information you'd ever want about IBM. And that is what we're going to use to build our cart. And so you can't get anywhere with this project until you can pull stock quotes. And now you can pull a stock quote. And so the next part is just going to be using this data to build a shopping cart, which is a project in its own right. But I wanted to make this a single video, so if you got hung up on something, you could hopefully try and get yourself unstuck from that. In the next video, we'll take that index, we'll turn it into a bunch of requires, and then we'll build a search form, and then we'll try and display a quote. So this is cool. I mean, this shows you the information that you can get about the stock. But, displaying that in a reasonable format is going to be a different project. And then taking that data and adding it to a cart is going to be a different project. And then displaying that cart is going to be a different project. So at this point now understand the scope of the lab. Now, make no mistake, this is the most long-winded video of the whole thing. I mean, there's going to be parts that are going to be more difficult, or more code that you're going to write for sure. But this is the one where I think you could find yourself in some weird situations. And to be clear, that's all going to be based on the idea of you having problems with your endpoint. One thing, so this went well for me on my first attempt, which is just dumb luck. One thing you can do is you can copy that URL and paste it up into a browser, like as an address, and it'll return that nice formatted JSON for you. I'm just telling you that's a thing you can do. I like that trick. And if your endpoint is screwed up, like for example your token is messed up, you'll get something like that. So do you see what I mean? You will actually get some you'll get some useful feedback if your endpoint's not built correctly. That's a very helpful message. That's just saying my API key's bad. Sometimes you'll get like symbol not found. And I think there's another message where your endpoint is generally screwed up, and I think it says service unavailable or something like that. But my point being, you need to know the tools to find the information, formulate what you're trying to do, and also a tool for getting some feedback. And this is your best tool for getting that feedback. So hopefully this is all you need in getting that starter done. Because then once we move forward, it'll just become a shopping cart real quick. So hope that went well. I hope that I'm sitting here talking a whole lot about nothing, because you've got a functional API starter already. All right, I'll see you in the next video.